सेव किया था ना?
मैं सिर्फ इसलिए गया था क्योंकि उसने मुझे कॉल किया, that's it. But listen तो.
Save it for someone else.
जिंदगी में सेव करना जरूरी है, मगर जब बात पैसों की हो, सिर्फ सेविंग से काम नहीं चलेगा। इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट कीजिए और अपने सेविंग्स को आगे बढ़ने का मौका दीजिए।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Many things, good and bad, are seasonal, right? So, good things, festivals, there's a festival season. Also, rain, there is a rain season. I love the rain, right? And so many things are seasonal that are good. So many things are also troublesome and they are seasonal. Dengue, for example, now it's on its last legs, I hope, because once temperature dips a little, it goes away. And pollution, most of all, right now, our foremost concern. So, pollution, is it a seasonal issue? It just peaks in mid-November and we all start crying about it, right? Because as you can figure out again from my voice, it's my mid-November voice. That means already my throat, my nostrils, my chest is feeling the impact of this awful poisonous air in Delhi. And you know what? Mercifully, I'm not having to use it yet, but it's that time of the year when I have to carry my inhaler with me wherever I go. All the time, because you don't know when you might need it. It's something that you learn to use, learn to keep with you in Delhi now, in North India particularly, if you live here. Now, the issue with seeing these challenges as seasonal problems is that when the season is on, we all start getting active. Everybody does. The media does. First of all, let's blame ourselves, right? We don't talk about pollution through the rest of the year, right? Governments get active. Everybody is saying, I will do this, I have this smog tower, I have this one, next year I will get this. When you die of lung cancer and when you are reborn, you will see a city completely revolutionized with smog towers in every street corner, right, etc., etc. And then also the courts get active, particularly the Supreme Court. Now, I have written several times that Supreme Court perhaps is wrong to wade into this pollution issue because it's a governance issue. Every time Supreme Court gets into it, it looks like it's the judiciary's problem. And the implication of that is that you take the monkey off the politician's back. Unless pollution becomes a political issue in Delhi and in North India, and people think of who did better with pollution, before voting for somebody, it's not going to improve. Court orders will not improve it. So that out of the way. So what I will do again is that I will use a couple of graphics to explain to you what Delhi's pollution is. Because you know what? Even a doctor does not start treating you without seeing not just the blood reports, but blood pressure, listening to your heart and your lungs through the stethoscope. Also maybe these days, scans, everybody is asked to take scans, right? Then a doctor can diagnose, and only when the doctor diagnoses that he or she can start treating a person. Now, in our case, we are not diagnosing the problems. We are not diagnosing the roots of this pollution problem in North India, particularly Delhi. And that's why we pick up our favorite target of the day. Ek din Diwali, patakas, ek din motor vehicles, ek din stubble burning, and this goes on. And what happens is year after year after year, our air quality remains the same. Our lungs are rotting. In fact, if you see the latest research, and I will share a story with you that we did some time back, 40% of the new lung cancers in India, at least 40%, are being seen among people who've never smoked a cigarette, right? So this is not just linked to smoking. India has now become a unique country in that sense. That's because of what we are breathing is much worse than cigarettes. Important thing to remember is it's not just during these 2 or 3 weeks of November and December. So to explain this better, I will also use 2 props. One to begin with now, something borrowed from the Franco-American culture. And also in conclusion, I will gratefully borrow something from Bhakt Kabir by way of spiritual poetry. Just 2 lines, don't worry. Now, the French started something in the 19th century, the mid-19th century, called vaudeville. What is vaudeville? V-A-U-D-E-V-I-L-L-E. It was just a musical farce. A musical farce, log bore ho rahe hain, right? People are getting bored, so they come, You have a clown coming in playing a few tricks. You have a few magicians coming now and then. There's no thread, no structure to what they were doing, right? They were acrobats doing their kalabazis, right? They were comedians of various kinds. In fact, at one point, even Charlie Chaplin was doing it. This was one of the first things Charlie Chaplin doing. It was still the era of silent movies. So Charlie Chaplin in 1910, 11, 12, 13 also was part of many vaudeville groups. He was born in 1889, by the way, the same year as Jawaharlal Nehru. So he was about 20, 21, 22 at that point of time. So that is how they entertained people. They were animals. You could play tricks with the hathi, with an elephant. They were singers, all kinds of things. There was no structure. It was all just fun. It wasn't always clean. Sometimes it was also a bit raunchy. And then the Americans took to it. So it became raunchier. Americans took to it. Americans were then building new settlements, and there were lots of bored people. So these became like traveling circuses. In the course of time, it died. I think a French idea got the American kiss of death in terms of popular culture and died. But what is happening right now with pollution control is a vaudeville. इसमें jugglers भी आते हैं, jugglers come in, magicians come in, you know what magicians are all about. Magicians come in, acrobats come in, comedians come in, trained animals come in, right? And singers come in. And choruses come in. In the end, nothing is settled. Then the show is over, people go on because there is no structure to the debate or the way we are addressing the problem. Now, how do we address the problem if we keep on ignoring the facts? Now, we saw today, the Supreme Court said that, oh, you guys are scapegoating the farmers. They contribute to only 4% of Delhi's pollution. Now, this is both right and wrong. This is something I believe that the Attorney General of India said. Now, this is both right and wrong because, once again, absolutes and percentages differ. So, if you take a percentage over a year, maybe it's only 4%. But if you take the share of crop burning, stubble burning in these 3 weeks, maybe it will be much higher. Once again, are you then going to address only these 3 weeks and forget about the rest? I will also tell you what happens to our chests and our blood circulation and our brains and our entire health system through the year. But before that, look at these three graphics that I am sharing with you. These graphics are borrowed from a report, 2016 report by IIT Kanpur. It is the only authentically researched, certified, peer-reviewed report available on Delhi's pollution crisis in terms of where does pollution come from in Delhi. There is also a list of suggestions that also quantifies that if you do this, your pollution or smog will come down by this much. This is essentially about smog. So this is a report by 2 eminent IIT Kanpur professors. There is Dr. Mukesh Sharma, who is now a fellow of National Academy of Engineering. He is a professor of civil engineering at IIT Kanpur, and also Professor Onkar Dikshit, who is also professor of civil engineering at IIT Kanpur. So from this report, I pick up these 3 graphics, and please pay attention to these as they come up on my screen. So first of all, let's talk about this element of the smog that bothers us most of all and that causes the most long-term damage, although it may not be the most visible. The larger smog particles are more visible. Those are about size of 10 micrograms, but size of 2.5 and below 2.5. That is the most dangerous because our lungs, our respiratory system cannot filter it. It goes and sits in our lungs. It sits in our lung. It's so small, it also gets into our bloodstreams. And it's only when it gets into our bloodstreams that it starts affecting everything from our lungs to our overall health. Also, it starts affecting our children's cognitive ability, their growing brains, and also their growth by and large. It's a terrible thing. It's like living in a radiation cloud all the time. Okay, I may be exaggerating. Radiation can kill people very quickly, but it's a kind of a slow radiation cloud because there's no getting away with it. If you look at Delhi, and in fact all of North India, in winter and summer, for at least 355 days of the year, our air is not fit to breathe. That means our air does not pass the test of the minimum quality that has been set by our own government. Our government, in fact, in 1981, passed something called the Air Act, right? And that Air Act says that generally your SPM of the size 10 should be this, SPM of the size 2.5 should be this. Our air quality through the year on an average is about 6 times worse than that. So if the law says that you are allowed 100 particles, we are actually getting an average of 1000. Where it says 60, we are getting an average of 600. That is the problem with our air. That's the reason we have to take a view through the year. So summer and winter, if you see, in summer, the particle of the size 10, that's a larger particle, is 4 times the acceptable limits according to the Air Act, right? In the winter, it is 7 times above the acceptable limits. That is the particle of size 10, that is the larger particle. So 4 times excess in summer, 7 times excess in winter. Now where do these large particles come from? That's where science comes in, and that's where our first chart comes in. Look at this chart. This is a color coded chart. It's easy to see, and I will explain it to you, and as I explain it to you, then you will find maybe that we'll highlight these sections on the chart. If you see this pie chart of the large particles, that is above 2.5 and up to 10 SPM, right? There 56%, that is more than half, and it's an annual average. More than half comes from road dust, and that is something nobody is trying to address. More than half comes from road dust. What are the other big constituents of it? Concrete batching. You know what happens? You've seen these things that mix concrete in front of houses under construction. There are also plants that fill cement bags and do concrete batching. All of them let out a lot of fly ash and a lot of fine dust in the air. 10% of all of this larger particle pollution comes from concrete batching. Then you look at some other major contributors. 10% is something called industrial stack. So what this IIT study did was they divided Delhi in north, east, south, west, 4 sectors, and picked up 6 distinctive areas, from agricultural to industrial to residential, to see what pollution was like there through the year, and then they averaged it out. So industrial cluster or industrial stack in Delhi contributes about 10% of the pollution. Once again, something that we talk about all the time, vehicles. Now vehicles, yes, need to be much cleaner, but they contribute only 9% to this larger particle pollution. That is SPM 2.5 and above up to 10 SPM, right? And then other contributors are domestic biofuel burning, because a lot of the households still burn wood or uplas, that is the cow dung cakes, and also coal, right? So that is about 5%. Then you have construction and demolition, that's about 4%, and the rest of it is just about 1%. Maybe cremations take about 2%, right? So that is how it is. That is how this cookie is cut. So if you see this, then you understand that one of the things that we need to address on priorities is our road dust, because that's 56% of our larger pollution, right? Which is also very bad. Now our smaller pollution, and remember now I am talking percentages, not absolute numbers, because absolute numbers for winter will be higher than summer, because in the winter the air quality is much worse on this SPM 2.5 or below 2.5 count than in the summer. But see the percentage contribution of various factors. Now if you see percentages of the small particle pollution or small particle smog, which is the worst for us, the cause of cancer and much else and much worse. Now this pollution in the winter, 25% comes from vehicles, right? What is the reason? One reason is that Delhi's air has inversion in the winter. It doesn't have that much wind blowing through it, particularly at this time of the winter. Then maybe towards the end of December, some winter rains start coming in, etc., and it clears out, it's taken away. Right now, there's air inversion. Everything that comes out hangs in the air. So in winter, vehicle pollution in the small particle is 25%. In the summer, it's only 9%. So what works in the summer does not work in the winter. What works in the winter does not work in the summer. But our lungs are being assaulted 365 days of the year. Then secondary particles we told you about, dust and all kinds of things. Secondary particles, 30% in the winter, 15% in the summer. Now these secondary particles will also include what's coming in from stubble burning, for example. So that is 30% in the winter, 15% in the summer. Biomass burning. Burning is mostly in Delhi. The biomass burning is that a lot of the people, you find poor people burning biomass to stay warm in the winter. You will also find lots of the households burning biomass to cook. Now in Delhi, this IIT report told us in 2016, there were 9,000 restaurants, hotels, dhabas using tandoors, right? So using wood or coal. Now, it's wonderful to have tandoori food, right? I'm not saying don't have tandoori, either paneer or chicken or mutton or whatever. You can have all that, but must it be done over coal? So that biomass burning during the winter is 26% of Delhi's small particle smog. In the summer, it's 12%. Coal and fly ash. And now that's a very interesting story. Coal and fly ash during the winter is only 5%. But during the summer, it's 26%. Why so? That's where the majesty of nature intervenes, unfortunately, to our detriment. In the winter, because we don't have winds blowing, because we have air inversion, because winds are still, all the pollutants that we release in Delhi and North India, they hang in the air, and what is produced to the west of Delhi, say in Haryana, Punjab, Pakistani Punjab, by way of stubble burning, all that also comes in slowly, winds bring them in this area, and then it sits there because of inversion. So in the winter, wind directions punish us. In the summer, wind directions again punish us because they blow from the other direction. So in the periphery of Delhi, for example, in the 300-kilometer periphery of Delhi, there are enough power plants, all coal-fired, mostly coal-fired, producing 11,000 megawatts of power. So they emit a lot of fly ash and other pollutants. Because in the summer, the winds blow from that direction towards Delhi. That's why in the summer pollution, the share of coal and fly ash is 26%, whereas in the winter, it's only 5%. Then you have soil and road dust, 4% in the winter, 28% in the summer. Once again, a function of wind directions. Also in the summer, region around Delhi, in fact, all of North India is very dry. Rivers have dry river beds, right? Crops have been harvested, that is Rabi crops have been harvested, new crops are yet to be planted. And because strong winds blow, they churn up this sand and this dust, and this comes to us. That's why soil and road dust in the summer is 28%, in the winter is 4%. And then you have solid waste burning. Now this is a problem that our cities can do without right away. They can stop right away. About 3 to 4% of all our municipal solid waste is burnt, right? And that causes pollution. So in winter, it has 8% share, 8% remember, of all our small particle pollution. In the summer, it's about 7%. And similarly, construction material is about 2%, 3% in summer and the winter. So these are the main contributors to our smog in the winter and the summer. So once again, if you want to address it, you will not get healthy, or your lungs will not be protected, even if we dramatically improved our air for these 15 days or these 3 weeks, right? They will only improve if we improve our air across the year, because across the year, if our air quality improves 40%, 50%, then we could even probably endure these few weeks of worse air, but not like this. You just can't fix this. You can't treat just a fever when you might have a deeper infection inside the body. Now the third chart is actually a 2-page action plan for National Capital Territory of Delhi. So watch it carefully, right? Read it carefully. I will share the entire report with you because this is your path report for the air quality of Delhi. First solution is stop use of coal in Delhi's hotel restaurants. Give them all LPG or electric tandoors. They cook quite nicely. You don't have to burn coal or those gobar ka uplas or cow dung cakes, right? Stop use of coal. That reduces your smog by an average annually of a factor of 80 points, right? So if your average smog is 600, it's reduced by 80. Similarly, if you stop all municipal solid waste burning, very simple thing to do. Just say that we will not burn, municipal corporation will not allow the burning of any garbage. If you do that, another 50 points are knocked out. A big one, 100 points are knocked out. If you do something as simple again as put some scientific methods on construction and demolition. And what are these methods? Handling of storage of raw material, completely cover the material. That can be easily enforced. Water spray over construction material so it's not kicked up by winds, and store the waste inside premises with proper cover. You will find every now and then some inspector comes and hands over a fine of a certain amount to some household, but that doesn't work like that. You have to bring in awareness and make it happen. Other areas, concrete batching, we explained to you what concrete batching is. If you can do a few things with concrete batching, and these are civil engineers, two professors of civil engineering talking to us, they say you can put windbreakers, bag filters at silos of cement, etc., enclosures, hoods, curtains, telescopic chutes where this stuff falls so it doesn't fly around, right? These are simple things that again cuts off 40 points from this smog, annual smog factor. Once again, road dust and soil dust. If you have vacuum sweeping of major roads, we've been promised this for the past many years, but as we figured just now in the Supreme Court, all of Delhi has only 69 vacuum sweepers. So if you vacuum sweep your roads 4 times a month, just 4 times a month, and you carpet all the shoulders, carpet them with shrubs, grass, whatever you want, if you carpet the shoulders, and then you do mechanical sweeping with water wash occasionally. If you do all that, another 70 points will be knocked out. Once again, vehicles, I think some progress is taking place. If you push everything to BS6, that is Bharat Stage 6, then you will find an improvement of about 50 points. Now, the big contributor to secondary particle pollution is our power plants around Delhi in the 300 kilometer periphery, and I think barring one that's nuclear, a small one on the banks of the Ganga, the rest are all coal fired. You have to apply engineering solutions which are available. So you have to de-SOx and de-NOx them. What is de-SOx? You have to put in new systems whereby they don't emit sulfur dioxide. And what is de-NOx? Again, you have to put in engineering systems whereby they do not emit nitrous oxide. Again, these things can be done, but they sound very boring, right? They are not exciting. They are not like, you can start abusing the farmers for 2 weeks, then you can abuse motor vehicles and do even odd the other week, or then you start saying ban patakas another week. It doesn't work like that. You have to address all of it together through the year, otherwise it's not going to work. Similarly, biomass burning, you can cut a lot of it by incentivizing Punjab and Haryana farmers to stop burning the stubble. You cannot do it by passing a law saying if you are seen burning the stubble, I will lock you up in jail. You will have to build very large jails for that, and farmers will defy you and they'll say, all right, I am willing to go to jail. So you have to use nudge politics. You have to use behavioral economics to make them switch from. Now I know you might say that you've come this far but you haven't talked about Diwali. I will tell you about Diwali also. Patakas on Diwali do add to pollution, but for about 3 or 4 or 5 days at a time when air quality in Delhi is already very bad, right? So at that point, it becomes much worse. At that point, SPM doubles for those few days, and the amount of potassium and barium in the air, which are poisonous to us, both go up 10 times, right? So it's not as if Diwali is not a factor, it's a factor, but it's a temporary factor. Even if you stopped all burning of patakas on Diwali, it will give you relief only for a few days. Otherwise, you have to address this problem through the year. So that is the reason I said I will borrow something from Bhakt Kabir to conclude this. Remember, Bhakt Kabir said one of his most famous dohas, Dukh mein simran sab kare, sukh mein kare na koe, jo sukh mein simran kare to dukh kahe ko hoye. So that applies to pollution control also. We all cry for these 15 days or 3 weeks when things get really bad, and then we forget all about it, and we get used to living with air quality which is 5 times or 6 times as bad as it should be, right? And once we get used to it, we only complain when it gets 18 times as bad, as is going to happen in the next few weeks. You cannot address this problem like that. आपको इसको address करने के लिए सुख में भी सिमरन करना पड़ेगा. You will have to address this problem even during the days when air quality does not look so bad.